Right, so we're going to finish up our discussion here on tunneling protocols. So just like with the ones that we had talked about previously, now we're going to start getting into ones that are encrypted in nature and allow you to have some level of protection once your traffic is in transit. Okay, so most people are familiar with SSH, a tool to be able to create those tunnels. And it's allowing you to be able to encrypt that traffic over port 22. One of the other things that I'd also mention is that even though SSH is mostly known for being run over 22, there are a number of other protocols that run over 22, including Secure Copy and then Secure FTP. So SCH for Secure Copy, or SCP for Secure Copy, and SFTP for Secure FTP. Okay. SCP. Yeah. And all of those are run over port 22 as well. Okay. Okay, one last one that we'll talk about, and this one will become much more applicable as we move towards an IPv6 configuration. IPv4 currently has the option of using IP security, known as IPsec. And what IPsec allows you to do is you have two different modes of transport or transmission. One is called transport mode, the other is called tunneling mode. And so essentially, if you look at it as two different packets, so if we'll go to the videotape here and show an example. So let's take all of this stuff out. And let's say our transmission has a couple of different aspects. So we've got what's called a header here. And if we go ahead and copy that, and we'll have a second part, and we'll call that the payload. All right. And so just from a very generic standpoint, the header has all of the header-related information on it. And then the payload will be all of the different types of traffic that you would be generating. Okay. And so you have a couple of different methods, or a couple of different transmission methods that could be utilized. Go back to the slides real quick. What you're going to notice is we have this thing called a authentication header, and then an encapsulation security payload. So both of those blocks that were just drawn are those two. And so if you're in tunneling mode, what winds up happening is all of this data that is unencrypted in nature will just, in the header information, maybe what we'll do is we'll say, this is going from, IP1 to IP2 inside the header. And then in the next one, the payload is maybe you're sending a message or something like that. And it just says, attack at dawn, right? The common encryption one that's utilized. And so what this allows you to do is, if you wind up being in what's called transport mode, we essentially then are able to cover over this with encryption. And then instead of being able to see this, we then are encrypted, and we'll make this a different color just to show the difference between the two. And so in this particular case, now we're in transport mode. Okay? And what that means is somebody who would be able to gain access to the packet through traffic analysis or whatever the case is, they'll be able to see where the information is going to and from, but they won't be able to see the details of the payload itself, which is very helpful.
And that's in transport mode?
That's called transport mode. So we'll write this one out here. Yeah, I think we actually discussed transport mode when we were talking IPv6 in class for that. So this should be hopefully a little bit of recall for you. And so then what we can do here is we can copy this whole thing, and then we can create another instance of this. And now, instead of having a situation where we are only covering up the payload, it actually encrypts both the header as well as the payload. And this is what's called tunneling mode. All right. And so that's the difference between those two. Now, once again, keep in mind that in IPv4, it's actually an option. You can actually set up IPsec between nodes if you would like. In IPv6, it will not be. You'll have to have, at a minimum, you'll have to have at least transport mode operating, because IPv6 has to run IPsec on it. Okay, it's part of the protocol. Okay, so let's take a look now at any questions that you guys might have related to this.